William Kentridge as an artist. William Kentridge was born in Johannesburg, South Africa in 1955. He studied at a university for 3 years, then attended Johannesburg Art Foundation for 2, and finally theater school for a year. William Kentridge was around to experience the dissolution of apartheid, which was a struggle of racial segregation in South Africa. A lot of Kentridge's work is a reflection of what happened during this struggle. He was heavily influenced by these emotions that he felt from the experiences. In an interview held by PBS.org titled "William Kentridge, Anything is Possible," he said that he wants to recreate the passion. It was either anger or distress or whatever the emotion, the intensity is what I think he was trying to recreate. He also said he tries to recreate the initial shock. PBS.org, 2010. I think that during this time, there was a lot of violence and mistreatment going around, and in the interview, he also brings up an incident where he had to witness some man getting kicked in the head and beat up by 5 other men. This violence at the time was clearly a big motivator for his work. He was known to be a political artist. According to an article titled "William Kentridge" from art21.org, he transmutes sobering political events into powerful allegories. art21.org, 2019. Johannesburg, second greatest city after Paris, 1989. This is a very famous film that William Kentridge created about the segregation of the white and the African American people. He explained a little bit about his film in his PBS interview. He said that the mountains got taken out by the miners. The city of Johannesburg was black and white. You would never see colored people on the streets. He said the drawings in this film are about how the white people treated the black people. He drew faceless people in their labor and shunning. PBS.org, 2010. In the article, "Johannesburg, Second Greatest City After Paris, William Kentridge," by Elizabeth Manchester, she says the films in this are set in devastated landscape south of Johannesburg, where derelict mines and factories, mine dumps, and slime dams have created a terrain of non-slaga and loss. Manchester, 1989. This work was made from 25 drawings and uses music by Duke Ellington. The timing involved in creating this piece was perfect because it was right when international pressure on South Africa to end the apartheid was most intense. Manchester, 1989. This work is meant to be a reminder and a representation of the inhumane actions taking place in this time. Materials. There was a wide range of materials that William Kentridge used to construct his work with. He did a lot of drawings, films, sculptures, and performances. For creating his films, I would imagine that he uses tools such as video cameras, lights, backdrops, and technology to construct these films. He makes his films with his drawings. For his performances, he needs to find actors and actresses, and he needs to have scripts for these people. Props, lights, microphones, and everything involved he uses for playmaking. His drawings are typically made with charcoal, some pastel. In another interview called "William Kentridge, Making Sense of the World" by Louisiana Channel, he says that he liked to use his charcoal because he could change the drawings as quickly as he could think. Louisiana Channel, 2018. Some of his art includes the use of colored pencils. According to Lou Reed in the 2009 Time 100, the work "Preparing the Flute" is said to have charcoal, pastel, and colored pencil with a model theater and animation, all tools brought to bear. Reed, 2009. William Kentridge and how it connects. Mr. Kentridge is mainly known for his amazing charcoal drawings and his animated films. His work can be very closely related to the performing arts in theater and movie making. Kentridge even studied theater for a year. In an interview from Louisiana Channel, he said that he was tired of drawing, so he went to school to learn how to do theater. In school, he said he realized, "I failed at painting, failed at acting, and failed at filmmaking, so I went back to drawing." Louisiana Channel, 2018. He still liked working in theater, so in the end, his work became a mash of the two. People can also look to Kentridge's work for a lesson about South Africa at the time. He had such different experiences and witnessed things that a lot of people have not. When looking at his work, you're getting a great insight on the emotional toll of the situation, as well as the situation itself, since a lot of his work often reflects these incidents. Critics. From what I've seen, people have no negative things to say about William Kentridge. His work is made for a good purpose and holds a lot of meaning and powerful messages. He's a complex artist. He seems to inspire and amaze everyone. Zachary Wolfe, a critic from New York Times, spoke about his work, Wozzeck, that he performed in the opera in an article called "Review William Kentridge's Triumphant Wozzeck Will Come to Meet the Opera." He says, "Mr. Kentridge has given it his most elegant and powerful operatic treatment yet." Joshua Bourne from the New York Times writes an article called "William Kentridge Gives Major Collection to George Eastman Museum," and it's about Kentridge's work getting put into the George Eastman Museum and how the museum's director, Bruce Barnes, was said to call Kentridge's work the most important acquisition in contemporary art in the museum's history. The Head and the Load. The Head and the Load is a performance that is meant to tell the story of many African porters and carriers that served in the forces for British, French, and Germans in World War I. There's a whole website that is called theheadandtheload.com and an article called "About the Head and the Load" dedicated to this play. An article mentions that the performance is about all the contradictions and paradox of colonialism that was heated and compressed by the circumstances of the war. About the Head and the Load, 2019. This play is meant to point out the historical incomprehension and colonial logic behind treating the African American people the way that they did. The actions of these men did not get any recognition, and their deeds were not even recorded. According to the article About the Head and the Load from theheadandtheload.com, William Kentridge says, "The Head and the Load aims to recognize and record." About the Head and the Load, 2019. The music in this play came from Philip Miller and Tuska Sabisis, which they changed up some traditional African songs and added quotes from European composers during the time of the war. Since there were no recordings from African soldiers, it was said that you didn't know what the war sounded like. So the music that was created and the noises that were used in this play were meant to form an idea and make up what it was like. According to an article by Louisa Buck called "William Kentridge Outplays the England March with Tape Premiere, the Performance, The Head and the Load," the play incorporates all of his performance practices of music, dance, projections, mechanized sculpture, and shadow play. Buck, 2018. This work is said to express his view that history is college. By creating the work with multiple sources, actors performed in front of a backdrop of drawn, animated, printed projections that were further animated by the shadows of the performers themselves. Buck, 2018. Identifying qualities of Mr. Kentridge's work came from the purpose of his work. He's considered a political artist, but he tells the stories of his work, and he does so in a very unique way with his animated films and performances. His drawing style is unique too, and has strong identifying qualities that's shown throughout mostly all his work. He draws dark, smudged-looking charcoal pictures on papers, and his films are constructed with his charcoal pictures as well. I find it to be very interesting that he managed to find a way to connect filmmaking and drawing into one big project. I like that Kentridge tries to do that with his work, and I think that it shows that he's very caring and passionate about what he does and what he had experienced.